Here's our soap making kit, all the things that you'll need to make soap. And you need to remember that the materials like the bowls and spatulas you can only use for soap making because they're not safe to use for cooking anymore. We'll start with a mold. You can use lots of things for molds, like a cardboard box or a PVC pipe. We used a plastic tub and we lined it in Crisco, which you could also use wax paper or Vaseline to do that. And you'll need a scale to measure your ingredients, and you'll need safety equipment like rubber gloves and goggles. And what makes the safety equipment necessary is the lye, or the sodium hydroxide, which is what makes soap making dangerous. And if you get that on your skin, it's good to have vinegar or lemon juice. This is the distilled water, and you use this to mix with the lye. And use distilled water versus tap water because there can be ions in tap water that could interfere with your soap making. And then you need some different oils. And palm oil is a very common one used in soap making, as is olive oil. And this is castor oil. And shea butter, some moisturizer, often used in soaps. And in our Soap Maker's Companion book, we are doing no-see-ums soap, and this is a insect repellent. So we've measured our lye and we've measured our water, and we got our measurements from the book that we're using.
Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take the distilled water and we're going to pour it slowly into the bowl, mixing as we go, being careful not to splash. And what's going to happen is a chemical reaction is going to start to occur where the bowl is going to start to heat up as the lye starts to dissolve. And there's actually a vaporization that happens. This is why we wear goggles and gloves. So we're just going to keep adding the water slowly and mixing it around just like sugar and water until it's dissolved completely. Try not to inhale too much.
Yeah.
Woo! Okay, so now we're going to measure out the olive oil. We're putting a whole bunch of different oils in this soap. So the first one is called pumice grade olive oil, which is the quality that you can use for soap making. It's not as refined as the olive oil that you use for cooking. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and measure that out. Now we're going to measure out the other oil, the palm oil. And as you can see, this one's not liquid, but it's actually warm enough in here that we're going to just squeeze it out of the bottle, and we're going to weigh out the amount that we need.
Alright, now we're going to measure the coconut oil, and this Juliet brought from Africa.
So now we're going to measure the shea butter, and this I brought back from Africa, so it's pure shea butter from the shea butter nut, which grows on a tree. Okay, now we're measuring out the last oil, which is castor oil, and we just need a little bit of this.
And here are some beets, and we've been boiling them for about 40 minutes, and we're going to use the juice to color the soap. And these are all of our oils mixed together, and we're going to heat them on the stove over medium heat so they start to dissolve. Okay, so we took the temperature of the lye and the oils, and it should be between 80 and 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're ready to combine our two ingredients. This is the oils, and we had cooked it on the stove for a while. And this is the lye, or sodium hydroxide, mixed with the distilled water. And we're just going to pour it in carefully. Make sure you use your goggles and rubber gloves again. And use a rubber spatula to stir.
And when you're stirring, you want to remember to stir in the same direction and keep a steady pace as you're stirring. Sometimes people use electric mixers, but you can also do it by hand. You just have to be steady. And we're going to stir it for 20 to 30 minutes. And what's going to happen is this mixture is going to become thick. So right now it's kind of liquidy.
And what's happening chemically is the fats and oils are an acid, and the sodium hydroxide in the water, also called lye, is a base. And they're reacting to produce soap. And the process is called saponification. And basically when you mix them together, they get thicker and more uniform. And you know when your soap is ready when you lift the spatula and you see a pattern that rests on the mixture before it disappears back into it. So you can see that, and it's called a trace. And that means that you're ready to pour the soap into molds.
So now we've finished stirring the soap. It's pretty thick now. It's been about 15 minutes, so we found a trace in our soap before the time that it had suggested in the book. And we're using a dish bucket because the edges are going to be a nice soft edge for the soap. And we covered the dish bucket with a layer of Crisco so that the soap mold will be easy to remove. And we also put some essential oils into the soap so that it has a nice scent. And we're going to do another batch with the coloring and a different type of mold.